Hey there. So in this video, I'm going to be making a drop-down menu, more specifically, an animated drop-down menu, and I'm working on a React. I'm working on JavaScript React.js. Okay, so let's get started. So here we go. I have my React. I hope you can see everything. Maybe I should make it a little bit larger. There we go. That looks maybe a little bit better. So if I write down test here in the center, test 1, 2, 3, it shows up there on the right side. And just to make things a little bit more easier to see, what I'm going to do, I'm going to give this an ID of main. There we go. And then I am over here. Like I can make a separate CSS sheet and do the CSS there, but might as well just do it on the same document of this. And the way you do that, and this is a, maybe you guys may not know this, but you do a style sheet. I believe this has to be within the main, has to be within here. So you would type in here style and bracket, and then over here you would have your curly brackets and then your backticks. These are backticks, and then inside here is be all your CSS stuff. So over here, because this is an ID, you have to use hash and then main. So now we're referring to main, and now we are going to change a few things. So let's so you guys can see this. I'm gonna make a border. So I believe it's let's do border, and then I think it's 1 pixels solid black. How's that look? Okay. Oh, spelled slide solid. There we go. There now you have your solid solid black border there. And I guess you want to make the have it extend all the way down to the bottom. So let's do height. And let's do 100% view height. VHS view height. Now it's all the way to the bottom, and just so we can see the border, so it's not, just so it's a little bit difficult to see. I'm gonna do margin. How about 10 pixels? See if that works out. There we go. That looks a bit better. What if we do let's see if I can do percentage. See if that works. Nope, that doesn't work. Has to be view height, 100%, or maybe 90% view height. There we go. That's a bit better. So it's easier for you to see what I'm doing. Okay, so we have a border there. So essentially we need to make a button, a drop down button. So what I'll be using checkboxes for this, but well let's make the button. I'm gonna make a label because I'll be attaching it to a checkbox. So um let's do label. This is very convenient. Like you can do all this in JavaScript, but I would rather avoid using JavaScript. Like less code is better. So I'm just gonna call this drop down, or maybe just menu, or just drop down, and oops, that's not supposed to be there. That's supposed to be here underneath. That's a styling right there. There we go. Let's get rid of this 1, 2, 3. So you have drop down here, and just to make it look like a button, let us let's dress it up a bit. Actually, let's give this an ID of, let's call this drop down, and yeah, let's call that drop down. Let's go up here and let's dress it up a bit. So hash, and then oops, drop down, and let's give it a border of 1 pixel solid, maybe black, or black. Let's do that. And maybe border radius 5 pixels. So you have like nice, looks like, let's give it padding 5 pixels. And yeah, maybe this background color. back color of maybe gray. Okay, that's good enough. The way I see it is good enough. Okay, so what I want to do is well, let's put this in the center. So put so a great way of centering things in general is to use Flexbox. I rarely use anything else, but Flexbox is awesome at that. So I want to center this right in the center of the screen. So I'm going to display this Flex. So Flexbox is a great way of centering items inside the Flexbox. So now it's Flex, and then I'm going to do justify content will be center. And so let me just do that. So now that's center there. Uh, but you want to put it right in the center. So align, align items. So you'd be using justify content and align items mostly. There's align content, but that's rarely ever used. You use in special cases, but justify content and align items. Remember that. Center. There we go. You have your Dropbox right in the center, and the reason why it's a label because label they have a great way of working with checkboxes. So let's and I'm gonna be making this a hidden a checkbox, and I want to put the checkbox like as a parent of everything else. So there's gonna be a bunch of stuff in within it within stuff, but I want to make it above. Like typically, as close as you should make it always as close to the top as possible. Oh, that is not supposed to be there. Okay, let's make the checkbox. Here we go. And let's do input. And let's close this input. And this will be hidden. Well, I'll make it, I'm gonna show this block, but let's type checkbox. And then you want to give it an ID. Typically, we could put the ID right in the beginning here. I'm gonna call it, you can use double quotes or single quotes, doesn't really matter. I'm gonna call it check, or maybe checkbox, or just check. There we go. And it's right there. And so when you use label and like label and input, label and the checkbox are related to each other. So if you do for and then you type in the ID for the box check, then now whenever I click on the box, hold on, let me just save it. Click on the box, it will check. So this is very useful, especially if you want to avoid using JavaScript. Because you can do this through JavaScript, but why should you? And when you make these checkboxes, essentially at some point you're gonna make it hidden. So style and then display, and then it'll be like none, and so you can get like hide it that way. But for the moment we're gonna have it visible, and then later we're gonna hide it. Again, you want to have these inputs, these hidden checkboxes, and I like to emphasize they're hidden, more closer to the parent than the child. So the closer to the top of this main, anywhere like near the top, because anything so it influences everything inside it or beside it, but it can't influence anything outside of the checkbox. I'll show you what I mean. So we have our checkbox, and then let's make our drop down menu, and it's going to be an absolute, like a floating absolute item element. But if you want to use absolute position absolute, then you're going to have to use position relative. So because position relative, well, let me show you. So let's make a div here, and then let's bring that down over here. Oops, there we go. And let's give this an ID of rel. And the reason we want to do that is because and I'm gonna do some do some inline styling style position position relative. There we go. Um yeah. And just so you can see this box, the relative box. I'm just gonna do some little bit of styling here. Hashtag, is it there? No, right here. Hashtag rel, and let's give it a border. Let's get a red border. 1 pixel solid red. There we go. And it's there, but you can't really see it because um, the sort of the box is sort of blocking it. So let's use a padding to give it some space. That's how about 10 pixels? See if that's enough. There we go. Maybe yes, 5 pixels work. Maybe 10 pixels. Okay. So you can see. So basically, this box is the relative here, right? And inside this relative, let me just put some spacing here. I'm gonna put an absolute item. So div, and inside this div will be a bunch of inputs. So let's do input, and I'm just gonna give it a class. In React, it's class name, and let's give it a class name of options or options. And let's end this input value, and let's say the value is button one. And let's see if it works. There we go. It's quite large. Okay, so that's that. And then we want to do, let's do 3 buttons. So let's just copy this. Control C, V, V, there. And so we have 3 buttons and we want them aligned. So let's do some for here. We want to, I'm gonna call this let's give this an ID of options. Let's do, how about border or opt option border. There. This is called camel casing, by the way. Like a camel, like the animal camel casing. It's a nice way of writing things. So it's called option border, and let's do a little bit of styling. Oh wait, before we do that, we want to style. Let's do some inline styling, and you can do this in the up here, but I'd rather do it down here so it's clear to you what exactly I'm doing. I'm gonna have this a position absolute. So again, you have a position here relative, and inside this div, I have another div that has a position of relative, a position of absolute. And the reason why is when you have it floating, it positions itself somewhere inside the relative. Like if this relative wasn't here, then this box would be out here, like the corner, far corner. Because it's inside this relative, then it positions itself here. So I'll show you in a second. So let's style this a bit. Let's do option borders. Actually, this let's change the yeah. Let's change some of this the width here of options. Hold on. Dot. Basically, we use dot. That's the class name, so that's our the class options. And yeah, that's right. Options. And let's just make this a little bit nicer to look at. So width would be, I don't know, let's say 50 pixels. There we go, 50 pixels. And let's just give it button 1, 2, and 3. 2 and 3. There we go. And let's maybe give it a padding of 5 pixels. Okay, that looks, and maybe a spacing. Let's do margin, maybe 2 pixels here. There we go. And let's do option border, so you can see so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So let's do a little bit of styling for option border. And I guess this is That's also an ID. Use a hash there. And let's do a border so you see exactly what's going on. Let's use maybe a blue border. So border. Like you can use background color, but I'd rather use border. Border is a lot more cleaner to look at from my perspective. Solid blue. So now you see that there. And then let's let's change let's do a little bit of padding, or not padding. Let's change the width, uh, and let's do fit content. Let's see if that works. Oh, that doesn't really do anything. So the width previously was I think, how about 60 pixels? Oh, that's 6 pixels. 60. There we go. And let's do padding of 5 pixels. Oops. Or you know what? We don't even need all that extra jazz here. That's just all extra everything. Let's do a display uh, block, and let's see if that works out. Um, I want to see if I can let's see if I can shrink that down the width fit. That was fit content. Huh, I guess it doesn't work. Okay, it doesn't really matter. Um, yeah, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really affect anything. You can play around with those. You can play with around with those a bit later. But just no, just so let's just so you don't get confused. I'm just gonna make it 60 pixels, so it's a little bit easier for you to comprehend. Okay, so we have that. Again, if you want this is that relative in position, right? You can actually control where this is. I can put it to the center, I can put it to the right, and it's based on this relative, the red box. So here, that's for instance, if I do top 0, and we're always looking at this top right corner here, right? That means it goes directly to the top. So if I say that, it goes directly to the top. If I do a top 100%, it goes directly to the bottom, like below here, and that's what we want. If I do um, left or right, yeah, left 0, it ends up going there. If I do left 100%, there, it ends up going over there. But it might be better to do right 0, and then it'll be inside here. So this is a lot more. This is a lot of drop-down boxes look like this here. So we'll use this. So now we have our drop-down box, and we want this to appear and disappear. Um, wait. Oh, is it cutting off? Maybe let's use 70. And this button, I think, maybe has to be 60. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay. Um, yeah, so we want this to appear and disappear. So right now it's block. So what we can do is we can use an on change of event. So when this is checked, we want this to appear, and when this is unchecked, we want it to disappear, right? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use the check, and this is pseudo, I think pseudo classes. It's called pseudo something, but it's and the ID here for check is check. And over here, there's a whole bunch of options you can have, but the option that we're interested in is check. Okay, so check. And so we're checking it, but we also have to put a second element here, or the last element. And we wanna, so if you look here, this check, it's beside this div, and inside this div is this option border, right? So saying beside, so you can say So when if it's directly beside something, then you can use plus. But if it's just beside it, like just like a sibling, right? Then you can use that. That might actually might be more appropriate because I might actually put some other stuff here below it. So this is probably more appropriate than plus. Plus is when it's directly like input is directly beside something. So I'm using this because it may not because later on I'll do a little bit more coding and it won't be directly beside. But I'm gonna use this. This one's a little safer bet. So the sibling, this means sibling of this div. So sibling of this div, and inside this div exists this option border. And you can do inside by doing like this. That means inside, or this means immediately inside, so directly inside this. But you don't necessarily, oops, you don't necessarily, if it's just inside, somewhere inside, then you can just leave a space if it's somewhere inside. So maybe this is gonna be a safer bet. Just do was it option border? It's hash. This is we're looking at the hash option border. There we go. And now we can do say display block. Yeah, so display blocks, meaning that we'll show it. Like if I do display block none, that means when I click it, it disappears. But we want to click it and have it appear. So we're gonna do block here, and then over here on the option border, we're gonna do none for display block. There we go. And now it should work. So now it's opening up like that. Now, what you want to do, there are times that you'd want to be able, so you want this open, but up here you want to click on this up here and then it will close. So you want to click on something outside this option and this will close because you don't necessarily want to click on this all the time. Sometimes you want to click over here and then you want this to close. So what we're going to do is we're going to make another label, and that other label is gonna click on this check, but you want this label to encompass the whole screen. So I'm gonna do a label underneath here, label, because labels are a great way of influencing check marks, right? And I'm gonna call this label background, and it's right there, and it's gonna be absolute. So let's give this an ID of uh, let's call this back there, and we're gonna make this an absolute item. So let's do some inline styling. Position absolute, and maybe just do this so it's a little bit easier for you to see. Now it's gonna be like in the background here. Yeah. So and maybe okay. So I'm gonna do a little bit of styling here, so it's a little bit easier to see. So let's do back. And let's put it to because it's absolute and it's outside of this. It's outside of this rel. See this relative here? It's outside of this relative. Then basically it's relative to the entire screen right here. So if I want to push it to the top, I just say top 0, and it's right there at the top there. But we want to be able to see exactly what this is encompassing. So let's type in border 1 pixel solid. Maybe use green. Green's a nice color. Green. And let's see. So it's that. But we want to encompass everything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna make it bigger. So we're gonna say um, height or width 100%. Hopefully it encompasses everything there. There 100%, and then we'll do height 100%. There we go. So that's everything. And maybe just to make it so it looks better, so we can do, let's give it a background color, background color, oops, background color. And let's give it, let's use RBG, R, red RBG A. A's the gives you the opacity as well. So RBG, and it'll be zero, like we're getting black, but it will be black with like 50%. So 0.5 is basically, or zero point 0.5 is just basically 50%, or maybe 20% of the color. So let's do that. Background, or background color. Hmm. What from the RGB? There we go. And then let's do 20%. There we go. So it's that background color there. And right now it's showing, but we want to initially make it black. So black none. So display none. And there. So it's not showing, but what you want it like when this is clicked, you want this to be like block to show. And then when you click on this label, so over here, let me just do this label. So label again, label is great for influencing checkboxes. So I'm gonna do here for, and you want to influence this checkbox, so you do check. And great labels can influence checkboxes anywhere, apparently. So here, yeah. So you want when this is when so this is when this is checked, we want the label to be block. So up here we're gonna do a second one. So when this is checked, we want, and let's take a look at relative position. So this label, this input, is directly below this label here, right? So I can use either um, the sibling, which is this, or I can use the, oops, I can use the plus. I can use the plus because it's directly beside it, or I can use a sibling. I'm just gonna use a sibling because it's a lot safer, and it's right beside this idea of back. So over here, I'm just gonna get rid of all this and put back. That's right. Yep, back side. There we go. So now it's working. So when this is checked, there, right? And also, we want to, so when we click on this, when we click on this background, it will uncheck it. You see how it works? So now that's working. And then now you want to animate it. And you can use transition in your styling to animate stuff, but I recommend you use animation instead, or keyframes, so you have more control and it's a lot more easier to understand than transition. So I'll be using animation and keyframes. So I'm just gonna copy and paste this. So we want to animate this option board, or this drop down. Is this drop down? No, this option border here. So we want to put that right here. So uh this here, this WebKit animation and this animation name is exactly the same thing. I believe WebKit is referenced to a different browser, so you want to use both because, so you want to do all the browsers. But I think at some point we're just going to be using this, and because it's new, because I guess animation is sort of new. So an animation, and you give it a name. I called it transformation scale, right? And I give it a duration of 0.3 seconds, right? So, and it's because I wanna influence the scale of it. Also, just worth mentioning, when you use display none and display block, and if you just use display, if you use transition, it doesn't work with display. You have to make it invisible. So it's a lot easier working with animation. And so basically with this animation, or animation and keyframes, whenever something changes in the class, then it sort of activates. So let me over here. Let us go directly to the bottom, and let's put our keyframes. I'm just going to copy and paste it right here. So this is the keyframes. Again, you use WebKit. and then it's just regular keyframes. And here's the name of the animation. Like remember the name of the animation is right over here. So you put the name of the animation, and then you can use to and from, but I like using percentages. So from 0% to 100%, and then basically we're transforming the scale from zero and the opacity from zero. Opacity means like it's invisible to opacity of one, which is visible, and the scale to 100% there. Yeah, that looks about right. Yeah, so, and then this is just a repeat of this here. So now it opens up like that. And you can do the origin of the animation or origin by just typing the word origin here on somewhere here. Yeah, I guess it's animation origin. Let me take a look. I believe it's transform origin. So because we're transforming it, right? So because we're doing a transformation here. So transform origin and let's say top right. So top, this is a top right over here. Let's save that. And now let's see it work. That looks a little bit better. Anyways, you got the idea of it. You guys can play around with the styling and see what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And that, yeah, that's the end of this video. Okay. Oh, by the way, my videos are meant to be reference videos, so all this code will be referenced in the description of this video.